It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielsen, Matt Cassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie, brought to you by our partners over at CoolBet, where I'm sure they're coming off one of their best weekends of the season. Busy weekend for sure with Super Bowl and, of course, matinee Oilers and Habs game on Sunday as well. We'll get into that as we work our way through the episode today. If you have not yet signed up for an account at CoolBet, use the code 2GUYS. You need number 2 and the word guys. If you're watching on the live stream on Twitter and you want to chime in, feel free to do so. And if you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, just search Two Guys and a Goalie on all your podcasting platforms. We got lots to break down. We got some Karlsson rumors. We got Oilers and Habs. We got the Super Bowl. Probably start with that as well. Cass, your shirt though looks like a cookies and cream blizzard. You know, like an Oreo blizzard. I can't not look at your shirt and imagine Oreo blizzard.
I think they're little flowers, but you know what, Dusty? If you want to imagine it's an Oreo blizzard and that's what you want to think of, then you know what? Just go right ahead.
You don't know how many times I've dreamt and had fantasies of an Oreo blizzard that could talk to me. And here we are. This is it.
Well, like most times, people just want to eat Cass up.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little crunchy, little sweet, little sugary, little crunchy, little ice cold.
Gager, you were molding the minds of young men and women today. Professor Gager, what'd you refer to yourself as?
Yeah, Professor X as the Professor G. We'll go Professor G. Yeah, no, just junior achievement. We did some work at Holy Trinity Junior High with some grade 8s, 9s, just learning about finances. It was hilarious because having them just make a budget. And it's funny how grade 8s and 9s, and I'd say that to my own kids too, they're very the adventurous with their parents' funds. So what I did is I said, okay, you're moving out on your own. Here's a list of all the things, and let's get a monthly budget put together for you. And I called one of the kids Elon Musk because he was this. But then I gave them the cards, the actual occupation. So one was a lawyer, a plumber, a pizzeria owner, and stuff like that. And so once they started using their own money, it's amazing how frugal they became. Like they weren't watching. They had a $40 cell phone. They were living in a hovel. So it was funny, but just getting to see deductions on paychecks and stuff like that. I think a couple light bulbs went on, so it was fun.
And I still get surprised by deductions on paychecks. I had no clue what's going on. I'm like, oh, that's what's going on this week. Where's that going? Like, I had no freaking clue. All right, look, I've been waiting for this since Cass. So Cass yesterday texts us and says, this is the type of Super Bowl party I'm at. And there was nothing else. There's no follow-up. After like 30 minutes later, Gager was like, what type of party? You didn't send a picture. Like we had no idea.
It wouldn't let me send. It was a video of me slicing donair. So like a big donair spit outside, like one of the real ones, and like using the machine slicer, like to shave, nice. like to shave the donair. So
you sent it today, and I have to say you looked nervous before you started doing your slicing.
I wasn't the first one to do it because that was part of like at halftime. Everyone was like, "Oh, like you can go cut your own donair." Like, and so it was Nick from Famous Donair in Sherwood Park was out there, and he was. I don't think they normally do catering, so they were there to enjoy the party too, and he brought stuff out, and everyone chipped in to pay for it, but it was awesome. And part of the draw was like, hey, like I'm going to teach you how to like cut your own donair and to use this shaver thing. And one or two of the guys like butchered it, like where it's like they cut too deep, and then everyone's like laughing at them and making fun of them, right? Because you butchered it. And these are all the people, of course, that haven't tried it yet, because it's like not actually easy to do. It's like, no, it takes a little bit of deftness, like to get your depth right and then your speed. And so when I was doing it, Nick, who was right there behind me, he basically told me, he's like, all the customers would be mad. I'm not going to try to do the Lebanese accent, but he's like, basically told me, he's like, the customers will be mad because you're taking 50 million hours. So I think this was cool. Exactly. But I was doing like super slow because I was so scared of like, dude. So I'm just like going, like just barely moving my hand down.
When you said the video, I was like, what's taking you so long? You got to get that good stroke going, right?
He's just like, yeah. I'm just like, man, like here's the guy who knows what he's doing. So famous donair in Sherwood Park, they came out and did that. It was pretty
jealous.
awesome though.
I'm jealous.
All guys, it was an all guys party, so it was just like I texted one of my buddies that was there with this morning. I was just like, man, my stomach today is not because it's like it was enough because we had about 20 guys there, I think, around like in that 20
That's
guy
a good
range.
That's a good party, little donair 20-man Super
Yeah.
Bowl party. Yeah.
Well, and everyone probably eat the equivalent of like 2 donairs. Like it's like it was awesome. So I'm sorry the video didn't work. I tried to send it a whole bunch of times, and then I didn't think to look again because it kept saying it was like not working.
Did 20 of you eat the whole thing? You ate the whole.
I don't know if we made it. We were pretty close. We were pretty close. I know they were giving. Like I don't know if he brought a full one though. Like if it was a brand new one when he threw it on, or if it was one that he had, that was down a little bit already. So
leftover. Yeah.
I didn't see that, but I know we made a pretty good dent in it. That much I can tell you. And it was pretty good. They had these little. He brought some Lebanese dessert things too, so they're kind of like baklava. If you ever had that, like kind of the pastry, but not overly sweet, those are really solid too. But I was told by everyone that you have to get his crispy cheese or crispy chicken cheese burger because I haven't had it at this shop there in Sherwood Park, so I'm gonna have to check it out sometime. But yeah, it was pretty epic for a Super Bowl. I'm like, man, this is perfect food for this.
Cass, man, this is for our longtime listeners. Obviously, if we go back and see Cass how he did his bathroom, and I don't know if we posted pictures of it, maybe just on our, but
I think we did back
after after a party like this, Cass, are they allowed to use that bathroom, or are you?
Well, it wasn't in my house.
Are we redoing that again?
Yeah, it wasn't at my house. Unfortunately. Okay. Yeah, no. If it was at my house, I would like you all have water, and only water, and there will be no food. Because I don't want to clean anything up. So no. And you know what though? Even today, I avoided that bathroom today, Gager, because I'm like, and I avoided the upstairs bathrooms because I'm like, I know my wife was cleaning. Yesterday was a cleaning Sunday.
Oh, you can't do that.
And so she like cleaned like the kids' bathroom and our bathroom and like cleaned all those. So I'm like, I'm gonna go down to the basement, like the cold bathroom that no one likes to use because it's cold and it's cold. But I didn't want my wife to get upset.
It's pretty much the only bathroom I get to use in my house is the downstairs bathroom.
Yeah, the downstairs
that's
bathroom.
It. Yeah, it's just my bathroom. Nobody else uses it. Daddy uses it, and that's it.
But the reason I thought your text was there was a meaning to it, Cass, because Dustin and I were talking about the Super Bowl just before. It was kind of meh, and that's the kind of response. This is my kind of Super Bowl, and it was nothing.
Maybe it was different for you, Cass, because you watched the game with 20 dudes. Like, I watched it here at home, but last year in that Rams-Bengals game, I was like walking around, pacing, and maybe it's because I really wanted Stafford to win one because he's a former Lion. He's always been my guy. But yesterday's game was a pretty amazing game, but I couldn't get into it. I don't know why. I don't know what. Were you guys, like the whole crowd losing their minds or what?
No, I don't. Not everyone was losing their minds. Like you had a couple Chiefs fans and a couple Philly fans. Like that's their team, and so it was. I think the emotion ratcheted up a little bit because of that. But it wasn't like not everyone was losing their minds. I mean, there's a couple points that everyone was losing their minds. Like towards the end, I would say towards the end of the game, like you have the big, the Hurts run at the end, and then you have the Mahomes run like on the bad ankle. Like you had a couple moments where guys were freaking out a little bit, but I would say it was a little subdued. But you know what I enjoyed, and I know some people don't enjoy this about it. And Dusty, I know you fall into the category more like the CFL, like where there was a lot of mistakes made and a lot of lead changes at the end, and it was kind of crazy.
Oh, it was nuts.
Which is nuts and fun. At the same time, I'm like, I just appreciated the precision so much because really it was like whoever makes the first mistake here in the second half, I'm like, that's who's going to lose. And they were so efficient that it was
both offenses. Outside of that fumble, both offenses were near perfect.
And to me, I'm like, to be able to do that against an opponent that worked all week and were really the last 2 weeks to prepare for you, like to me, I'm like, that just says something about how well functioning these offenses are. So I found it pretty fun. So no one was really freaking out. It wasn't like no one yelling and screaming the whole time. But guys would get a little worked up. They get a little worked up, a little bit.
Gager halftime show. What'd you think?
Great, loved it. Although my only complaint was no Pond to replay. That's how I loved that song. It came out when I remember because I'm pretty sure I was in Sweden when that came out, playing in Sweden. It was huge. I thought that was the best. I went and bought some Puma gear because all those guys were wearing Puma stuff. I was a little disappointed in that. Other than that, it was great.
I thought it was good. I mean, I couldn't stand up on that thing, perform like heights like that. Like that was especially, that was insane. I mean,
at the end, you could see it buckle a little bit. And
it looked like it was a little wobbly.
She kept going, and I'm like, wow, man, that's a performer there.
Yeah, I would be too scared with the height. I didn't really watch it. I watched like the first 10 seconds. I saw the platforms being that high. I'm like, oh, that's pretty sweet. And then I ran outside to cut donair. So I was more interested in the donair.
It was really appreciated in my house because I'm in a dancer's house right now.
Oh, so they would have loved it. Yeah.
Right now is beating my daughter's outfits just with rhinestones and stuff. So the choreography was critiqued like crazy, and it was great. Like I thought it was good. My daughter was laughing because she said they all look like Chupa Lupas from Charlie the Chocolate.
Yeah,
It was great.
But they moved. Like, they danced good. Yeah,
and it's funny because you think, oh, you look at the Super Bowl, you think, oh, I want to be Mahomes, and my daughter's like, oh, I can't wait to be a backup dancer at the Super Bowl.
I liked it. I thought it was, I mean, it wasn't one of my top 5 Super Bowl halftimes ever, but it was there. It was good. I thought she did well. But yeah, overall, the Gronk kick of destiny was pretty weird. That didn't make any sense, but
most of the guys were like, did that just happen?
That was it?
Or was that was another commercial? Yeah. And I was like, saw the live thing. I'm like, no. And the way he reacted, I'm like, no, I think that was it. I don't understand why he's doing it.
It's like 15 seconds.
What is happening? I'm like, I didn't get what's happening at all.
Did he make it?
No, he missed it. But it was close, so it kind of looked like he made it. So everybody's like, did he make it or did he miss it? It was just...
Well, he fell down and was like, no, he didn't make it. And I was like, okay, well, now what's the payoff one way or the other? Like, what's...
I think they were just paying out 10 mil no matter what, either way. Like, I don't know.
Were they? Was that the thing you bet either way? Is that
it was it was like a betting thing with a partner that we will not name because we're brought to you by Cool Bet. Yeah. But I don't know. Didn't seem like a lot of buzz around it when it's all said. Anyway, now let's get to the biggest disappointment of the day: the Oilers losing to the Habs, missing like 7 or 8 regulars. Gager, you were on Oilers Plus, right? Cass, you did post game, Cass. So you guys both already kind of broke this game down. Gager, I mean, 4-6, second half of Matt. Like, I don't want to make excuses because it was shittier than even expected. Even if you were going to make an excuse, right? Like it was worse than that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I felt as I was watching, and I know when a lot of times when you go into, especially on a back-to-back, the second half. The message in the room is probably, you know what, they're going to come out. Let's hold the fort for that first 10 minutes, which they didn't even get a shot on net, right? And Stuart Skinner actually was holding them. He made some pretty good saves in that first 10 minutes. And I thought, okay, now they got their feet under them, but nothing happened. There was a little bit of that push in the second where I thought they could get things going, but I think even Woodcroft said at the end, to a man, to everyone, they just were not good enough. There was a lot of poor play from some key players, and really the biggest, I think. I mean, the Oilers did well. I think overall this whole road trip, it's an okay road trip just because of the points and the way they went about getting these points. But man, Leon Draisaitl has to find his game here. I don't know if he's trying to do too much or
he's not trying to do too much.
Well, every pass has got to be a 40-foot pass, you know?
Okay. Like, on that side of the puck. Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, on the defensive side, it's atrocious. And that's giving me pause because he has to be a leader for the Oilers. And part of that is leading by example and being straight-legged when you hit the red line, when you see guys blowing past you. is just not acceptable. I don't care who you are, especially at this time of the year. That can't happen. And yeah, but last game of a road trip, they wanted to come home. You know, I'm not gonna put too much on it. It's sure you would have liked those 2 points, especially against a team with 8 regulars out of the lineup, like you said, Dusty. But that's I'm looking forward to Wednesday, because I think there's a little unfinished business with that Detroit game. So hopefully we get a more spirited, emotional effort from the Oilers.
Yeah. Gager, Draisaitl needs to be better. 100%. He hasn't been up to his normal or his average. If we look at his average, he's been sub-average the last bunch of games, really since the All-Star break for him, where there's been, and he will always be a high risk, high reward player. Always. He's always going to be better offensively than defensively. Always. That's who he is. That's his game. And he makes a team better for it generally. But he struggled a little bit the last couple. And I mean, they were all not good. And Gager, you left out, not only was it the last game of the road trip, it was another morning game. It was Super Bowl Sunday on the last game of a road trip, with a day off the next day, with plans to stay in Montreal to watch the Super Bowl after the game. Like that, it's like, it's a recipe for having.
You don't play till Wednesday. It's like,
Yep, the green light is going to happen on Sunday, regardless of if you win or lose. It can be a little bit tough to look past that. And Montreal was in the same boat, though. With that being said, I think it actually benefited them to have so many AHL guys in the lineup, or non-regulars in the lineup, because it was like they weren't thinking about the Super Bowl. They were thinking about, this is a chance to play in the NHL. Like, this is a chance to win a hockey game. This is a chance to have an impact in an NHL lineup. And so it was, I think, mentally a lot less to overcome for Montreal than for Edmonton in that one. And at the end of the day, guys, it was an ugly game. It was a bad game. You're in your last 11 games, 8-1-2. So I'm not freaking out about it. Does it give me pause that Draisaitl hasn't been great? Sure. Does it suck that they lost? Yes. Am I freaking out? No.
The one thing that I really liked about it was the Evander Kane and Vinny Darnay trying to get things going. That was great. I thought that was awesome. And what was even more disappointing is that didn't get guys fired up. And hey, Montreal Canadiens, they played great, man. You could tell they were a step ahead all over the ice for a better part of, I would say, 55 minutes, where they were the first on, executing better. It's funny. Probably Montreal Canadiens are thinking, geez, maybe the Vancouver Canucks were said thank you to Edmonton for giving Montreal 2 points, because in the Bedard sweep
to the bottom.
Cass Desharnais looked like he could handle himself just fine there. I mean,
he's
that
like
guy's a
6'7".
guy who goes, right? Like,
he's 6'7", so yeah, he can handle him. Most guys that are that size at this point in their career, they can typically handle themselves just because of their size alone.
Just on strength, size and strength alone, size and strength limit alone. The damage, kind of like.
Yeah, like you could just, if you do it semi-defensively, you're going to be fine most of the time. And it's not like there's any ultra heavyweights anymore that are going to be able to absolutely blow those guys up that are that size anyway. So, he's going to be able to handle himself. Again, he's not like a guy like he loves fighting, but he is willing to step in to protect his teammates, to get stuff going. And I appreciate that tremendously. I have done it. Not easy to do, even as a big guy. So good for him for doing it. I texted Tommy Gazzola this, big wiener, huge wiener Gazzola, when we were, just going through the game. We were texting back and forth. And I used a phrase. So, Gager, I'm glad you brought this up with Evander Kane. Defibrillator is the phrase that I used. Is he is like, at times, a defibrillator for this group that, and I'll agree, because they talked afterwards, and I can't remember who that was that talked afterwards. Maybe, or actually it was Woodcroft that responded. Like, he kind of got frustrated. One of the reporters, I can't remember which one, asked him a question about like, you not being a tough team or this or a perception of that, and he's like, oh, we're a tough team. Like, we think we're a tough team
or whatever.
And it's like, well, I think the Oilers are, Kostin will throw, Kane fights, Desharnais will fight, but it's not a emotionally tough team, like where they, they're really tough to play against. So it's like, I think the question was actually a fair question. And I didn't necessarily agree with how Woodcroft handled it, because I'm like, well, maybe there's a perception that, yeah, there is, they can fight anybody. Kane, they'll fight. They got guys, they'll fight anybody if someone wants to start that game, but they don't have. Sometimes this team doesn't have a heartbeat emotionally, unless they're sucked into it or dragged into it. Now, sometimes in groups, they just happens naturally. Sometimes you need players to do that. Evander Kane and Vinny Desharnais are guys that try to suck a team into that. And I appreciate that tremendously for this group. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think they're way better with Evander Kane than not. And they missed him when he's out with the wrist injury, is because in some of those games, they lack the ability to draw that emotion out of themselves. And McDavid, sometimes he isn't able to, and Draisaitl, sometimes he's not able to. And that's not, please don't think that's a knock on those guys. It's not at all. Some players have that ability, some do not. But what we saw from Desharnais and from Kane is both an ability and a desire to try to do that and to try to pull that out of the group. Now, it didn't work against Montreal. They didn't turn the game around, but we've seen in games where they have, and where it has sparked something, and they've tried to, up the emotion to get the team more involved. So anyways, that's way too much of me talking, so I'm going to stop.
No, it was the Detroit game, right? Detroit poked the bear, like I said before, and they got a response from, I think, to a man, every Oiler. And the Oilers I would say when they are emotionally engaged in a game,
way better.
They are way better team.
Yeah.
And I granted, it's tough. And I think sometimes coming off some emotional wins, you see that let down the next game. But man, when I'm sure, you look at the Oilers and go, guys, let these guys kind of sleep. We don't want to play between the whistles. We don't want a lot of stuff after the whistle, because when they tend to wake up and those big guys start going, everyone seems to get involved, and then they become. That's what Woodcroft talks about, is that team toughness. I think a little bit. It would be nice to see that's drawn out just for shits and giggles, Cass. If those all of a sudden, and Kane's capable of doing that, just being just a shit disturber out there and raising the temperature of the game up, because man, when it goes up, when that temperature goes up, the Oilers are one of the best hockey teams in the league easily.
Well, McDavid already is at a level beyond everybody, and he can even be having a great game. But when that type of shit gets engaged, man, it's to supernova level. It's insane. Kane and Tkachuk in that Ottawa game, that was a pretty good scrap. There was 3 or 4 heavy blows both ways. I thought that was kind of nice to see as well. Man, Marshall got fired up watching that. He's watching that Saturday. He's like, oh my God, he's jumping up and down. He's just and then NHL.com deleted it.
But fighting isn't fun.
All right, let's get to Erik Karlsson. Chris Johnson over the weekend tweeted that the Oilers have re-engaged the San Jose Sharks and Erik Karlsson. Low Tide wrote an article today that involved trading 2 firsts and Bouchard for Erik Karlsson with $5 million retained, and then moving Barrie for Radko Gudas and trading Foegele and a pick for Bukestad. So, he's kind of blowing everything up here. Cass, let's start with you, because you went, ugh. You played with Karlsson, didn't you?
Yeah, no, I love Carl. But to me, and I think I texted this to you guys, I've said it to so many people. I said it on the pre and post. Is he a great player? Yes. Does he make your team better in some ways? Yes. But do you need a better power play? You have a historically good power play. You don't need a better power play. Now, if you're pulling some kind of crazy MacGyver, and that it's okay, we are able to trade Barrie. And bringing Gudas, who's big, physical, strong, tough defender. So we're bringing in Gudas, playoff experience as well, and we're bringing in Karlsson. I don't know what Gudas off the top of my head. I don't know what his contract situation is, but if you're bringing in those guys for draft picks and trading Bouchard and Karlsson, and you're able to make it work from a cap, sure, the fandangling you'd have to do and move Foegele out and all that. I'm I don't see it happening. If you're just moving people straight up and trying to do something crazy just to get Karlsson, I'm kind of it doesn't need an offensive defenseman. You need stable defensive stuff. So that's where I just kind of going I love Carl. Again, good guy, going to be great in the locker room, great player.
You just don't think he's the right fit? Yeah.
No, I don't. Again, if you can, if you do some crazy like 4-way, 5 teams involved with draft picks and Fogle out and Barry out, and you can actually swing it, then okay. If you're telling me you're replacing Barry with Erik Karlsson, and then you're replacing Bouchard with a veteran defenseman who's stable and has a couple years on his contract, plays the left side, plays a physical, steady, simple game. Okay, I get that. Because then you're essentially swapping maybe for a minor upgrade Barry, and even if you could call it that, Barry's been really good this year, and he's actually been pretty steady defensively. We haven't talked about how Barry's got burned all the time and caught out of position. Like, he's actually been pretty consistent.
He's been solid.
He's been solid. So it's like, so maybe an upgrade there, maybe a little bit of an upgrade or an upgrade, whatever you want to call it. And then, you know, basically moving Bouchard out for a steady defenseman. And I don't know, guys. It's just like, okay, maybe I get that, but doesn't that end up kind of being like you just traded Bouchard for Gudas and gave up draft picks? Like,
part of me is fascinated by the willingness to win a Stanley Cup by averaging victories 6-4. You know, like, part of me is like, all right, like, just straight up try to outscore them. Gager, you've already been hesitant about giving up big chunks of the future for even a guy like Chychrun, who's younger. Like, to me, before I throw it over to you, Gager, in the offseason, Erik Karlsson was a 32-year-old injury-prone D-man who made way too much money that the San Jose Sharks couldn't move to save their lives. You know, and now he's had a great season, and all of a sudden they're looking at multiple firsts and a young there has to be a middle ground here, because I still think whoever takes him, as good as he's been this year, is doing them a favor by getting him off their books for the next 4 years, considering the situation that their franchise is currently in. So, Gager, your thoughts on how much 4 months can change the value of a player one way or the other, and the fact that there'd be 4.5 years left on this deal, and how much they may have to give up. I mean, the rumored ass, who knows what happens, but.
So, yeah, it's a lot to give up. And I still trying to find the hole that this trade fills for the Oilers and what they think that's required for them to win a Stanley Cup. And so when I look at last year in the conference final, they didn't have an answer to Cale Makar, right? Like, Cale Makar is he's on Connor McDavid type level when the playoffs roll around. I'd say it's so hard to defend. And do the Oilers think they need a player like Karlsson to combat that type of player, like to go puck possession? But I don't think it works. I don't think it helps the Oilers. He's a great player. And part of me is really would like to see what that looks like at that time of the year, but like you said, Dusty, how do you have to score 6-7 goals to win each night? Like, Karlsson's not the greatest defender, and that's what the Oilers need most, I think. And we've seen progression in a lot of players, and it looks good, but it's too much. Like, that contract is just a noose over the next few years for the Oilers with how the current cap is going to be. We don't know what it's going to be in a few years. Maybe it makes
it should go up. I mean, it'll go up probably by the last 2 years of this deal significantly, you would think?
Man, the fan in me loves it. The two guys and a goalie analyst in me hates it.
Yeah, I guess even the biggest Karlsson supporters wouldn't be like, oh yeah, he's great defensively. But if the puck's in the other end of the ice all the time when you're out there, you know, it could help things, which is a strategy they try to deploy with McDavid and Draisaitl, right? It's not like McDavid and Draisaitl inside their own blue line are all lights out defense either, right? They push the puck to the other end of the ice and and go for
And
it.
I'm being a hypocrite to my foundation of winning a Stanley Cup. You're bringing in the Norris caliber trophy defense that I think is required.
You said that's what they need, right? The two guys, the two forwards, and then
it's so. And I would be saying this if the COVID didn't happen and the cap was at a reasonable amount. I think, Dusty, I would say do this, but I just look at where it's at, and you see viewership in the States down. Like, what's going to happen with it? It just financially. This would really hurt the Oilers.
Part of me is just like, if you could tell me he's going to be healthy for the next 4 years, I'd be like, okay, I'll take it. But the guy, he hasn't played more than 60 games. Well, obviously one was a shortened season, but I don't think he's played more than 60 games. He should do it this year, like in 4 years at least. So there's a little bit of hesitation. If you're not worried at all about his health, then I'd be a little surprised. I mean, that's a thing with this player. That's a thing. And for an organization that's kind of in this spot because they already had a guy who had to call it quits early, not that it'll be early, he's 32 years old, but is Erik Karlsson going to play at this level for 4 more years? And he's playing at a level right now that he hasn't played in the last 3 or 4 years. So good time for San Jose to move him, because I thought it looked freaking unmovable in the summer. So
Cass, you played with him. Do you think he's capable of keeping this up for the next 4 years?
Well, is he capable of it? Absolutely. Will he? I don't know. Like physically, he's a freak, and like he's.
Is that how he's always been? Like he's just like naturally a physical specimen?
Just naturally physical specimen in terms of the way his body recovers, in terms of what he's able to do. Now he's had a lot of significant health challenges, which may have impacted that, and it's not like, you know, I see him on an everyday basis anymore. So I don't know. I can't fully answer that. Is there the potential that he can be at that level, especially being healthy, and can he stay healthy? Yes. Again, there is. We have to remember that he changed in a lot of ways the game for defensemen in recent, it's like a, I know Bobby or whatever, like it was a revolution of being able to be an offensive defenseman with what he was able to do as a young guy in the NHL, and he still has that caliber to be able to do it. But can he stay healthy?
And is he the final piece of the puzzle? I mean, if you're giving up, you're giving up, you have to win a Stanley Cup with him.
He's got to be the piece.
Maybe they do this year.
I don't think he is. I don't think he is. If you want to talk about bringing in GUYS somehow else, like if he's available and you want to look at bringing him in as like a shore up piece, sure. I would way rather look at that. Look at that than Erik Karlsson, because you have Barrie, you have a power play that works. You need to have someone that's just you can give some of those tough minutes to away from Darnell Nurse, that allows Nurse to maybe have a little bit of an easier night on a night-to-night basis, that plays steady, hard to play against. It just solidifies that back end. To me, that is what you need right now. And again, like, I love Carl. I don't think he fits that.
It'd be nice to see Erik Karlsson on a team where he is not the focal point of the offense, right? Sure, a huge part of it, but Connor and Leon, maybe he takes some of that pressure off, right?
Well, maybe, but you still need defensemen to defend. Like,
throw him up on the wing.
Yeah, there you go. Turn him into a forward.
I think we've solved it. That would be insane. All right, hey, before we wrap up, it is Valentine's Day tomorrow. Cash, you look like you didn't know that.
No, I was just like, ugh.
Do you guys have like women, everything arranged for your loved one? Gage or no?
No.
You just let me know, Dusty. You just let me know. So, off to Shoppers.
Off to Shoppers. Shoppers has those 2 aisles of like $30 Valentine's Day gifts. My wife, after the show today, because I didn't have to do lock shop today, so I said I would go wash my car. She goes, "Well, you pick up Elizabeth?" And I was like, "I can't pick up Elizabeth. I have to go to the mall to buy something." So it's just like, sorry, kind of left at the last minute. But that being said, I mean, I personally don't care too much about Valentine's Day. I don't need a gift. I like to get my wife something for Valentine's Day. You know, that's how I usually roll. So
you guys are getting sucked into the marketing campaigns that have just created this thing to try to sell you more stuff, man.
yeah, it's commercial product creation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, if you don't get anything, you're fucked. So, all right, boys. We'll talk to you on Thursday. See you later.
Later.